Hello everyone, my name is Arlene Dominguez, and today I'm going to be talking about long-term air pollution exposure and type 2 diabetes, or T2DM, among adults. So a quick background on air pollution. Air pollution is a widespread of pollutants in the air, and it is mainly caused by fossil fuels, vehicles, and agriculture. Approximately 91% of the global population lives in areas with a pollution above the World Health Organization guidelines. This being, metropolitan areas, big cities with a lot of populations. Type 2 diabetes is an elevation of blood glucose levels, also known as hypoglycemia, characterized by insulin resistance. Compared to type 1 diabetes, type 2 is not innate and it is influenced by lifestyle and environmental factors, as well as socioeconomic factors. And this research explores whether long-term air pollution exposure has a strong relationship to higher rates of type 2 diabetes in adults. So some quick research, Lim and Thurston in 2019 published an article on air pollution, and their research demonstrated that air pollution contains harmful pollutants such as fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and ozone. These pollutants negatively affect the metabolic and cardiovascular systems. This fine particulate matter is very microscopic and it is very tiny, and the main exposure route for all of this is through inhalation in your nose. It would allow the pollutants to enter the lungs and the bloodstream, and via cells and via tissue, it would trigger an inflammation and oxidative stress in the body. And chronic exposure disrupts this normal oxygen function, therefore putting adults at risk for type 2 diabetes over time. This means that any adult, regardless of what stage in life they are in, are potentially at risk for type 2 diabetes when they're exposed to these pollutants. And what exactly do these pollutants do? Once again, they disrupt B cell functioning, reducing the body's ability to produce this insulin. And these biological effects would accumulate over time, putting the adults at a higher risk. And they estimated that approximately 200,000 diabetes-related deaths occur each year that are linked to fine particulate matter exposure. This shows that pollution plays a major, often overlooked role in metabolic disease. This pollution can also worsen pre-existing conditions, increasing vulnerability in at-risk individuals, not only putting them at risk for type 2 diabetes, but potentially even worsening their pre-existing conditions. Another study by Pfeiffer in 2025 studied nurses, approximately 200,000 women, over a span of 27 years. This higher long-term exposure to fine particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide increased type 2 diabetes. This risk was especially higher in urban areas, with common type 2 diabetes symptoms being high blood glucose, frequent urination, persistent hunger or polyphagia, and blurred vision, and unintended weight loss in even more severe cases. So, this measurement of long-term exposure to these pollutants found that even small increases in pollution still played a huge role, as they led to approximately 5% higher risk for type 2 diabetes. This shows that even low consistent exposure can disrupt metabolic health over time. And these pollutants, once again, can come from traffic, industrial activity, combustion. However, it is important to note that in this specific study, it focused only on women in nursing. Therefore, it may not be generalized to all populations. However, it still highlights how pollution is an important environmental trigger for type 2 diabetes. Another study by Wu in 2022 followed 500,000 adults in the UK with ages from 37 to 73 across a different lifespan of 12 years, with about 400,000 having no diabetes or no risk for diabetes at the start of the study. The pollutants that were examined in the study were fine particulate matter. Once again, here you see two different levels of it, nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and they found that approximately 13,000 participants developed type 2 diabetes. So remember at the start they had 0 at risk for diabetes. Now we had 13,000, with many experiencing complications or death related to the disease. So this increased diabetes risk occurred at pollution levels that were often considered safe under current environmental guidelines. Now this is important as it really demonstrates how as society we view the levels of toxins or pollution that are considered safe in connection to the actual deaths that occur each year relating to the toxins and the pollutants. So in conclusion, long-term air pollution exposure is linked to a higher risk for type 2 diabetes. And air pollution is a widespread and often overlooked risk factor which affects more and more people than what we commonly recognize in our own neighborhood, in our own city, and society overall. Even moderate pollution levels can have a serious health effect, and continued research and public health action, preventative action is needed to really understand how we can help reduce this pollution-related risk for diabetes, as it is very important to note that it is not as advocated for. And here are my references. Thank you once again.